Have you ever had a feeling that something is about to happen? As if technological advances were following an increasingly irreversible path? What once seemed like science fiction is now part of our daily lives, and many of these innovations connect directly with ancient biblical prophecies. With each new discovery, humanity approaches a scenario that may be described in the pages of the Apocalypse. Today we live in a world where the Internet of Things IoT controls from appliances to large infrastructure. But what if this harmless connection was just the beginning of a global monitoring and control system? The World Economic Forum and technology giants are promoting ideas that can completely transform our freedom. Elon Musk's Neuralink and the brain-computer interfaces promise a revolution, but are we ready for the real impact of these changes? Subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and keep following more content that can change your worldview. These are not just technological advances, but a larger narrative unfolding before our eyes. The Apocalypse talks about the Beast brand and a future where no one can buy or sell without it. Will we be on the verge of this absolute control? Are artificial intelligence, biometrics, and Internet of Bodies IoT part of this prophesied system? Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to find out can completely change the way you see the world. Technology advances at an impressive speed, which once took centuries to evolve. Now it becomes a matter of years. Smart devices, artificial intelligence, and even brain-computing interfaces are completely changing the way we live. But is this revolution just a natural advance, or are we approaching what isn't described in biblical prophecy? After all, the Bible already warned of a time where a global system would control all human interactions. The Internet of Things IoT connects everything around us, from appliances to security systems. But this level of connectivity also means an unprecedented level of surveillance. With the advancement of the Internet of Bodies IoT and technologies like Neuralink, we are not just tracking our steps, but allowing companies and governments to access our own thoughts and emotions. In such a scenario, where is free will? Was the world being prepared for something much bigger? The World Economic Forum and other global entities promote this revolution as inevitable progress. But is there a hidden purpose behind this advance? Revelation prophecy speaks of absolute control, where no one can buy or sell without a specific brand. Would we be facing compliance with this forecast? The rapid pace of technology may be leading the world to a way back, and few are realizing what is really happening. Throughout history, great advances have brought profound changes in society, but we have never been as close to a global control system as now. The Bible warns us about a time when no one can buy or sell without a specific brand. With the digitization of money, biometrics, and integrated identification systems, are we seeing this prophecy come true before our eyes? With each new technology, we approach more than one scenario where free will could be just an illusion. The concept of the Beast brand, described in the Apocalypse, was often interpreted as a symbol. However, emerging technologies point to literal implementation. Implantable devices, subcutaneous chips, and even brain-computing interfaces, such as Neuralink, are being developed and tested. These advances can be sold as convenience, but what if they are only the first step to a total surveillance system? Elon Musk and other technology figures advocate these innovations, but few question the risks involved. Digital identification systems, driven by artificial intelligence and biometrics, are being promoted globally. The World Economic Forum enthusiastically discusses the need for a universal digital identity. But if this system becomes mandatory, will we still have real freedom? Revelation warns us that many will be deceived and accept this brand without realizing the consequences. The question is, are we approaching this prophetic moment faster than we imagined? The Internet of Things IoT brought a revolution to our daily lives. Today, whole houses can be controlled remotely. Cars drive alone, and even refrigerators make automatic supermarket orders. But while convenience increases, the level of monitoring also grows. Each device connected collects data on habits, preferences, and even location. The question is who really controls this information, and more importantly, for what purpose? Large corporations and governments accumulate an unprecedented volume of personal data. Smart sensors and cameras capture everything from our times to behavioral patterns. The World Economic Forum defends this interconnectivity as an essential advance, But is this technology being used to offer us more freedom or to consolidate a surveillance and control system? If every step we take can be recorded and analyzed, do we still have privacy? And this is just the beginning. IoT data crossing with artificial intelligence can predict behaviors, identify consumption patterns, and soon restrict certain actions based on what algorithms consider acceptable. With the digitization of the economy and the growing dependence of technology, could we be moving to a system where individual freedom will only be a memory of the past? Would we be seeing the first steps to global control predicted thousands of years ago? If the Internet of Things already allows total monitoring of the environment, the Internet of Bodies, IoB, takes us vigilance to an even deeper level to human being himself. Implantable devices, wearable sensors, and even subcutaneous microchips are being developed to monitor health, emotions, and even thoughts. The promise is medical advances and greater connectivity. But is this the only purpose? When biometric data become accessible to large corporations and governments, what happens to privacy? Elon Musk's Neuralink already allows people with deficiency to move objects with the mind. However, this technology is not just helping. If brains can connect to computers, who guarantees that these computers cannot influence thoughts? Brain-computing interfaces are being sold as innovation, but maybe the gateway to unprecedented control. The World Economic Forum already discusses the regulation of this type of technology, but is the intention protection or domination? The Bible warns about a system where no one can buy or sell without a specific brand. If implemented devices become mandatory to access essential services, will we be facing the realization of this prophecy? Many will accept these changes in the name of practicality, without realizing the true risk behind them. When the body itself becomes part of a global control network, freedom becomes a concept of the past. How far can this technology take us? Neuralink, Elon Musk's company, is developing a technology capable of connecting the human brain to computers. The promise is revolutionary, allowing people with paralysis to move objects with thought, broaden cognitive capacity, and even create a kind of symbiosis between humans and machines. But is this innovation just a progress tool, or are we facing something much bigger? What can happen when the human mind is literally integrated into a digital system? Brain-computing interfaces are no longer science fiction. Technology is already advanced enough to capture neural signals and turn them into commands. But if a chip can transmit thoughts to a computer, the opposite can happen too. Those who control data can, in theory, influence emotions, change perceptions, and even manipulate decisions. Is this the basis for a future where humanity will lose its autonomy? The apocalypse talks about a time of global mistake, and could this technology be one of the instruments for that? The World Economic Forum and other institutions advocate the advancement of AI and neural interfaces as part of the next technological revolution. But if these tools are used for surveillance and control, there will still be room for free will? Imagine a world where thoughts can be tracked and analyzed in real time. If social networks already manipulate opinions today, what could happen when this manipulation is done directly in the human brain? Will we be approaching a point without return? If we already live in a world where our actions are constantly monitored, what about a future where even our thoughts can be tracked? With the advancement of brain-computing interfaces and artificial intelligence, the real possibility arises that the human mind ceases to be a private territory. Neuralink and other emerging technologies are opening doors that can lead to complete loss of individuality. But are we prepared for this transformation? The World Economic Forum and large technological corporations work to integrate neural devices with everyday life. But if a chip can capture thought patterns and analyze emotions, who ensures that this information will not be used to shape behaviors? Today, algorithms already influence opinions through social networks. Now imagine a scenario where the brain itself receives direct suggestions, and where even unwanted thoughts can be censored or reprogrammed. Wouldn't that be the absolute control over humanity? Biblical prophecy talks about a time when freedom will be replaced by a global totalitarian system. If our thoughts can be accessed and manipulated, will we still be truly free? Bodies and neural interfaces can be sold as advanced, but hide dangerous potential. Revelation warns us about a period of great mistake, and perhaps this invisible control of the mind is part of the scenario. The question that remains is, are we moving to a world where even human consciousness can be dominated? The Bible, in the book of Revelation, warns us about a time when no one can buy or sell without a specific brand. In Revelation 13, 16, 17, it is written that this mark will be imposed on all, large and small, rich and poor. For centuries, this prophecy has been interpreted in many ways, but now, with the advancement of technology and digital control, it seems closer to reality than ever. Could this brand be a technological system disguised as innovation? Today, we see the digitization of money, the imposition of digital identities, and the advancement of technologies such as biometrics and subcutaneous implants. Society is moving to a model where all transactions will be traceable, and anyone who does not do part of the system can be excluded. The World Economic Forum and other institutions openly talk about a future where digital identities will be essential for the operation of society. But what if this is the way for full control? Many will accept these changes for convenience without realizing the risk they are in. If the prophecy of the Revelation is fulfilling yourself before our eyes, there is still time to question and resist. The mark of the beast may not be just a symbol, but an imminent reality. In a world where digital control advances fast, what remains of those who do not want to submit? Since ancient times, humanity has been warned about a great deception that will involve the whole world. The Bible reveals that Satan not only opposes God, but also works behind the scenes to prepare the scenario for Antichrist. This global control system does not arise out of nowhere. It is gradually built through technology, manipulation, and gradual loss of individual freedoms. Is this the preparation for the Antichrist government? Many believe that technological advancement is just progress, but the apocalypse warns us about a time when a mistake will be so great that even the chosen ones could be deceived. The Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, and brain computing interfaces are just some of the tools that can be used to consolidate an unprecedented domain. When vigilance becomes total and people are induced to accept a system that seems beneficial, but hides an obscure purpose, the biblical alert makes even more sense. The idea of global control is no longer a conspiracy theory. The World Economic Forum, world leaders, and large corporations work toward an increasingly interconnected world dependent on technology. But if this interconnection is used to eliminate individual freedom and impose a single system of government, are we not seeing prophecy to materialize? The Antichrist system may not just be a future event, it may be being implemented before our eyes. Many people think that Antichrist will be an abstract entity or just a government system. However, biblical prophecies describe Antichrist as a human being, someone with power, charisma, and influence enough to convince the masses to follow their leadership. He will be a figure who will initially seem to be beneficial to humanity, but over time will reveal his true nature, leading the world to a period of oppression and manipulation. How will it arise, and how will we recognize its signs? The Antichrist will not come with an obvious sign of malignancy, but with promises of solutions to global problems. With the increase in international tensions, economic problems, and the growing dependence on technology, it can be the savior that many expect. However, your true agenda will be global domination and control. With the use of emerging technology, such as mass monitoring and surveillance, the Antichrist can exert direct influence on people's thoughts and actions, making any resistance almost impossible. The World Economic Forum and other organizations may not realize, but they are in many ways helping create the fertile ground for the rise of figures such as Antichrist. The digital age, with its promise of interconnection and progress, may end up being the stage where it will get up. It will use technology to manipulate, control, and finally dominate, reaching a power capacity never seen before. The question is, how will we protect ourselves from this manipulation, which will be subtle and insidious but devastating? The number 666, widely associated with the figure of the Antichrist, carries with a symbolism that generates both fascination and fear. In Revelation 13:18, it is said that this number is the number of a man, and those who accept the mark of the beast will be identified by him. But what does this number really mean? Throughout history, many attempts have been made to decipher its meaning, but what stands out is the fact that it represents a control system, a seal of domination that will be imposed on all who submit to the power of the Antichrist. With the advancement of monitoring and control technologies, such as biometrics and identities digitization, number 666 may not only be symbolic, but a tangible reality. Imagine a system where all individuals have a unique identity associated with a code which, to some extent, is already reality with identification numbers, CPF, and even facial recognition technologies. The World Economic Forum and other entities are promoting a future of total digitization, which could mean that sooner or later we will all be marked in some way. This puts us closer to the fulfillment of this prophecy. The real question is, to what extent are we willing to sacrifice our freedom in the name of convenience? Number 666 need not just be a symbol, it can become a real brand that defines us in a global system. With increasing surveillance and implementing new forms of control, this prophecy begins to seem increasingly relevant. The question is, will we be attentive enough not to be seduced by promises of progress and security that can lead us to digital slavery? The advancement of emerging technologies, such as artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and implantable devices, are often sold as innovative solutions to facilitate our lives. However, as in the famous Trojan horse of Greek mythology, these innovations can hide dangers. The convenience of a digitized and interconnected world can actually be the gateway to total control over humanity. Instead of freeing us, technology may be imprisoning us in a surveillance and manipulation system. The World Economic Forum, with its ideas from a digitally integrated world, is helping to build this reality. Increasingly, we are encouraged to accept devices that monitor our movements, our purchases, our health, and even our emotions. The idea of a more connected life seems attractive at first glance. But what happens when this connection is used to control us? Antichrist, with his manipulation of technology, could use these tools to create a global surveillance network where all aspects of human life are monitored and manipulated. Technology, which at first glance seems to be a benefit, can eventually become the Trojan horse that brings with it the loss of freedom. Each advance from real-time monitoring to thought control can be a piece of the puzzle that is being assembled to the total domain. In a world where people are increasingly dependent on these tools, the real question is, will we be able to recognize the trap in time to resist the absolute control that is being imposed? Daniel 12:4 speaks of a time when many will run from one part to another, and knowledge will multiply. This biblical passage seems to align perfectly with the current reality, where the advancement of technology occurs at an impressive speed. We are witnessing a digital revolution in which artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and the Internet of Things are radically transforming our lives. What seemed to be a distant future is already a reality, and this acceleration of knowledge seems to be fulfilling the prophecies of a time of great change. Today, knowledge multiplies exponentially. It is no longer a matter of years, but months and even weeks for new discoveries and innovations. Artificial intelligence, for example, is changing the way we live, work, and even think. But if knowledge multiplies, is humanity prepared to deal with the consequences? Technological acceleration is not only a sign of progress, but also an open door to manipulation and control, where those who hold power over these innovations can control everyone's fate. The question is, how far will this technological revolution take us? If knowledge multiplies, but is also used to dominate, manipulate, and control, we are approaching fulfillment of prophecies over the end of time. With the evolution of technology and the growing surveillance, will we be able to preserve our freedom, or will we be intended to live under a huge global control? The acceleration of knowledge can be the key to a future of freedom or slavery, and this depends on how we decide to deal with emerging technologies. Donald Trump has been a central figure on the world political scene, and his impact cannot be ignored when it comes to biblical prophecy and the future of the world. Many believe that it plays a significant role in the times before the end of time. The attempted murder against Trump and his controversial actions are seen by some as signs that turbulent times are closer than we imagined. Amid a growing global division and the rise of surveillance technologies, its presence on the political stage may be connected with the development of the Antichrist and the world control system. Trump, like other world leaders, is inserted in a global scenario where emerging technologies and political control are intertwining. What may seem like a normal political dispute can actually be part of a larger plot involving mass manipulation and the imposition of a new world system. The growing polarization and conflicts on the international scenario create a perfect cultivation broth for the rise of a charismatic leader who could be seen as the savior, but will ultimately serve the Antichrist system. Is this leader Trump, or is he simply preparing the ground for someone else? The Trump attack, as well as other events in the global scenario, are not mere coincidences. They can be interpreted as part of a series of events that indicate that we are approaching something much larger. As tensions increase and technology becomes a powerful control tool, Trump may be playing a role either as a catalyst for change or as a symbol of conflict and manipulation that await us. The future is still being written, but the signs are everywhere, and it is up to each of us to discern what is really at stake. Geopolitical tensions in today's world have never been so intense. Nuclear war threats are no longer something from the past, but a real possibility that hangs over humanity. The increase in tensions between global powers, coupled with the advancement of mass destruction technologies, puts humanity at risk of a catastrophic conflict. In many ways, this is seen as one of the lighter signs that the prophesied times are coming. Nuclear war, with its potential to decimate millions of lives, is one of the most serious threats to our future. The prophecy of wars and rumors of war, mentioned by Jesus in Matthew 24:6, gain strength when we observe the current scenario. Countries like Russia, the United States, and China are in constant confrontation, and the simple possibility of a nuclear attack is enough to cause global panic. In an increasingly interconnected world, nuclear war would not only be devastating to nations involved, but would also have a global impact, reaching economies, populations, and even the environment. With the power of technology, the possibility of a calculation error or an intentional attack can come true at any time. The threat of nuclear war is not just a political or military concern, but a sign that we are moving towards compliance with biblical prophecies over the end of time. Revelation speaks of large-scale destruction and suffering, and a nuclear war could be the trigger of a period of tribulation. The question that remains is, what are we asking to avoid this scenario? With the evolution of nuclear weapons and the intensification of global tensions, are we prepared for the impact that such a war would have? The future is uncertain, but the risk of nuclear war is real and needs to be taken seriously. The apocalypse described in the Bible, with its visions of destruction and suffering, has always been interpreted as a distant event and perhaps even symbolic. However, as we observe today's technological and geopolitical developments, it is difficult not to wonder if we are really witnessing the fulfillment of these prophecies. The combination of global control through technology, increasing international tensions, and the possibility of a charismatic leader to emerge and dominate the world as described in Antichrist prophecies seems to indicate that we are approaching a decisive age. The end of time is not just a matter of destruction. It can be seen as a moment of radical transformation for all mankind. The growing use of artificial intelligence, biometrics, and mass vigilance seems to suggest that prophecies about the beast brand are not just metaphorical, but real. With technology already being used to monitor, control, and manipulate behaviors and thoughts, the future may seem more dystopian than many imagine. In a scenario where global control becomes reality, with a single figure or entity exerting absolute power over human life, the fulfillment of biblical prophecies about the Antichrist and the end of time may be closer than we imagine. But how to prepare for what is to come? Revelation is not just about the destruction of a world, but about the choice of how to live while we still have time. Prophecy warns us about what is to come, but also shows us that we have the ability to resist, to make conscious choices, and to move away from handling and control systems. The big question is, are we ready for this? The end of time can be an opportunity for humanity to redeem itself, but also a period of great trial. It is up to us to decide which side we will be when prophecy is fulfilled. As biblical prophecies and world events intertwine, many feel lost or overloaded by what the future can bring. Political tensions, nuclear war threats, and the advancement of control technologies may make it seem that we are on the brink of an abyss. However, the key to facing these challenges is not just about understanding events, but how we choose to react to them. By becoming aware of the forces that shape our world, we can prepare for the trials that have come and seek to live with more purpose and discernment. First, it is important to remember that the power of choice has never been taken us. Even in times of great pressure and manipulation, we always have the ability to decide how to react. If technology can be used for control, It can also be a tool for freedom and growth. The secret is to maintain discernment, cultivate spirituality, and not give in to deception. Just as prophecies speak of the Antichrist, they also warn us about the power of resistance and the importance of maintaining our faith. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the future, with all its uncertainties, can be viewed with hope or fear. Understanding what is at stake and preparing mentally and spiritually for difficult times, we can find strength to resist. Prophecy is not only an end forecast, but also a reminder of our ability to choose and transformation. So, what are you doing to prepare for the times to come? Don't leave tomorrow what can be done today. Subscribe to the channel, enable notifications, and keep following more content that can change your worldview. The journey is just beginning, and together we can be better prepared for what lies ahead.